Welcome to Quack&Co, the board game channel, where every video is 10 minutes or less guaranteed. And today, this is just one of our Played It Once episodes. Now, we technically have played this one twice.
Yes.
A while ago, but it was in the same sitting, and the first one was a learning game, and the second one was okay, let's really see the systems up and running and play this. We played it two-player.
Yes.
With half the map closed off.
Yes.
Without any kind of extra little things thrown in.
There's a lot of variants that you can play with. Yep. At the end of the game, we played base game, getting our feet under us.
But this is 3 Ring Circus from DeVere, and might be your number one game from our GenCon haul.
Yes.
We've now played all the games that came from GenCon. We're doing little Played It Once on most of them. And this one, you said, might be your top.
Yes. This was one I was very excited to pick up. The theme has a sentimental value of seeing the circus when I was a child. In addition to that, it was also going to be a genre of game that I like. It was going to be a Euro game, a tableau building, trying to get the most points and beat your opponents. And with that, let us dive in. It's 3 Ring Circus. You are going to be placing down cards based on the type of show that you want to perform in the cities that you want to perform. You have the 3 rings of your circus. At most, you're going to put down... At most, you're going to put down 15 different performers on your board. As you put down performers onto your board, no thank you. As you put down performers onto your board,
that's why I drink.
You're going to be covering up symbols that in the beginning of the game are actually beneficial. You're going to be covering up some of your movement symbols. You're going to be covering up some of the money symbols that you will be getting from performing at different shows. Your goal, though, is to ultimately perform at the big cities, such as New York, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis, and Chicago. At these big cities, there's going to be very strict requirements. New York wants to have a 13 performer in the middle, followed by a purple performer, and preceded with an orange performer. And to get the most points from that city, which would be 6 points, plus 5 points, plus 4 points, a total of 16 points, plus if you went there first, another 3 points, you want to have that exact sequence in your row. As you place down cards onto your tableau, your cards are always going to be going in ascending order. So having a 13 somewhere sandwiched between these, it doesn't leave much room higher up than that.
Yeah, in the classic structure of Euro games, everything you do in the game will lead to victory points in one way or another. Yeah. People you put down on your tableau will have scoring depending on who's next to them or around them. They'll have scoring based on how valuable the card is. You'll have scoring here on the board based on where you've performed. You'll have secret objective scoring based on what you've collected and how your circus has built out. The big challenging part of this game is maximizing all these good actions.
What you're going to double
to get
down
as much as you can before the game runs to a halt. Now, the timing mechanism of this game is also very interesting and very thematic.
It's going to be Barnum, and he's going to be going around and completing shows at all the different locations. He's going to skip over the ones that you've already done.
That is key. He's going to be going over the ones that you've already performed at, which means...
You should do the ones that are behind him and kind of... Or speed up ahead game and do the ones all in front of him, so then he's just going to skip.
End game by jumping in front of him and closing off everything in the front.
It is a very interesting mechanic as the board gets smaller and smaller. Like we were saying, in a 2-player game, you do have 2 areas that are closed off with these tiles and kind of prevent you from using those areas. So your map gets even smaller throughout the game.
So, in this Played It Once series, we have sat down, we have played this game. What was challenging about it? What has worked with it? Are we coming back to it? You know, I already kind of spoiled that, saying it was your favorite one of the GenCon.
Yes.
But where are we? What was your first impressions? Because the quote of the show is, first impressions matter, so we thought we'd talk about ours.
Oh, cute. That's so cute.
Yeah.
So, my initial first impressions, the thing that did not work for me was... In a 2-player game, we have not played at higher player count, so we're going to give that disclaimer that we played at 2 players. In 2 players, it was hard to cycle through that deck of performers. And I remember specifically looking for these unique performers that you needed to have to perform in the major cities towards the end of the game, and I did not have them.
Yeah, it did become a little bit hard to dig through and find the ones that you were looking for. You had to adjust to what you had available, or when we actually played it the second time after our learning game, we both picked and held on to some that we knew we could build towards for the longer run of the game, instead of in the first game where it was kind of like grab everything you can and kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
We made the mistake in the first game of driving endgame without really realizing what we were doing.
Yes.
Whereas positioning and how you actually control where you're performing on the board matters a lot for how quick this game cycles, for how quickly Barnum is going to be...
Barnum?
Yeah, Barnum is going to be moving through... I just went for a word. How quickly he's going to be moving through the board. It can be a really cool mechanic to thematically drive endgame, but if you're not playing around it, if you're not purposeful about it, it can also really cut you off before you have a chance to perform at some of these bigger cities. I love the artwork, though.
Yes.
I love the style. I love the theme. It feels like a really good Euro game. You know, mechanics first, themes pasted on. But man, does the theme make this one stand head over heels for me above something like, I don't know, trading silk on the East Coast or, you know, selling opium to, you know, Japan. Like, this one just, it works for me in a really, really nice way.
It was very cohesive. I like the fact that as your board, in a typical Euro fashion, as you put more things onto your board, you get tighter and more limited in what you have available. And at the beginning, you have a lot of more powers and abilities and flexibility and how fast you're moving and how much money you're getting for performing at the smaller cities. That all they do is just give you money cards. The middle tier cities have different scoring mechanisms where you want to get your pedestals. So yes, you want to kind of perform at the end cities at the end of the game and the middle tier cities in the middle of the game, but you also want to get there before other people take your spot. Or if you see that someone else has performed at the middle tiered city, you don't have to rush there because they can't perform there twice. Each one has their own requirements that they want. The dog, like the animals that are performing here, the cowboys that are performing here, the clowns, they all the middle tiers have these requirements. These are all variable as well. They all come off the board and shuffle and are double-sided.
Well, and I'll tell you what, when you first look at this game, it looks like a lot. It looks like a lot of stuff's happening, a lot of symbols, a lot of iconography, a lot of cards to go in your tableau here, but it's really approachable. We could sit down and get this up and running, you know, with a brand new player in probably 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's with them really asking questions and needing to know the whole game. If they just want to start playing, I'd say 5 minutes we could be running, and then they'd figure out some stuff along the way. Really, really cleaned up iconography. Very, very legible. Once we knew what we were doing, we knew what we were doing. There was no double-checking the rules. There was no double-checking cards and trying to figure out if this card does this or doesn't do this. I really like this one. Now, solo...
I think one of the areas that I struggled with, one last area before we jump into solo, is the fact that both the money cards and the performer cards can all be played in your tableau.
They can be.
The money cards are the only ones, though, that can pay for the higher people, and you get a discount. So if you've already played a 7 value card in your row and you're playing a 10, you only have to pay the difference in 3. But the fact that I was trying to get the number sequences all matching up, and then I couldn't perform at these smaller cities without having the money
Like I
ones.
said, building out your
tableau. You want everything, and you can't get everything.
Building out your tableau could be big endgame victory points, but you sacrifice other things along the way. So it's got a solo mode. It's got a 2 to 4 player mode, I believe. It's not 5 player, is it? Yeah,
No.
1 to 4. Are you going to be playing this solo? Are we coming back to it 2 player? Are we only coming back to it at higher player counts? Where does this, after we've played it once now, where does it stand?
All the above. I would like to definitely try it solo.
Okay.
I would like to get it played at higher player counts and kind of then decide, is it going to be a higher player count only game, or will we come back to it at 2 players?
See, I am compelled to solo, but not bad interested. 3 and 4 player, though. I think 4 player here will be really good.
I'm compelled solo.
Yeah.
I am compelled. They have a whole different deck of cards that you use. There's kind of an automation of how he cycles around the board. And I like the theme enough, and I like the tableau mechanism building enough that I think I would dive into it.
So, after the first experience, out of 10, where are we sticking this?
Out of 10.
With decimals.
With decimals.
Don't be a heathen. Don't do a flat number. Come on.
Wow. I am sticking this at an 8.2.
8.2. I gotta be honest. What? I had a very similar number in my mind.
What did you have?
I was hovering at 8 something. I'm gonna drop though.
Because I said mine? You should have said yours first.
I'm going a 7.8. I'm going a 7.8. I think it's very, very good. I think it's very, very good.
Yeah.
I do think it required a learning game and a full second game.
Which is funny because you're like, it's very easy to get up and running. But I still think the learning game was really helpful.
But like most Euros, you got to know where it's going to score.
Yeah.
You got to know where it's closing the game out. All right, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Let us know, what are some of the games that have worked? You've only played once. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.